All right. Here's an example of rainwater weathering. Look at what can happen here. You can see that the rainwater falling on top of these rocks is smoothing out the top of it. And you can see why. Rain can fall very, very hard. Even a statue like this, over time, if it's not repaired or taken care of, it will weather away. That's why, have anybody ever been to a really, really old building and noticed that like some artwork on the outside has started to like kind of disintegrate away over time? This is due to rainwater weathering. This one at the top, people always ask me about acid rain. This is an example of acid rain. You can tell that it's acid rain weathering if you're also usually seeing this black color along with the weathering. Acid rain will weather things much quicker than regular rain. Acid rain is a special kind of rain that's caused from pollution. Human beings putting harmful chemicals into the atmosphere. These harmful chemicals mixing with the rain in the clouds and making the content of that rain even more acidic than normal. It's not a good thing. It not only can destroy buildings like this, it can also kill wildlife, change climates, change atmospheres, change environments where animals live, and cause major changes on Earth. It's another reason to not pollute and to take care of our planet. Any questions about rainwater weathering or acid rain if you like? We talk more about acid rain in a later lesson. Finally, root wedging. This one is a little bit easier, I think, and it kind of makes sense to everyone that thinks about it. Plant roots. What's a plant root? Anyone remind me, what's a plant root? Someone asked me this before. Fiona, what's a root? Do you know?
It's the bottom of a plant.
Right, it's the bottom of the plant. And these plant roots are not always going to go where you'd expect them to. They're going to go wherever there's a crack and an opening. And like we said before, rocks are not completely solid. Rocks have cracks in them, and these cracks are small enough for plant roots to grow into. Now, William, have you ever pulled a plant root out of the ground and say, oh, that's a really small plant root, and tried to break it in half and found out it was actually pretty hard to break in half?
Yeah.
It's hard. Raise your hand if you've done that before. Raise your hand if you've tried to break a plant root before and you found out it was much harder than you thought it would be to break that little plant root. Plant roots are strong. They have to be. It keeps the plant alive. They're strong enough that when a little plant root grows into a crack in a rock, that plant's then going to get bigger. And if the plant gets bigger, what's going to happen to the plant root, Lily?
The roots get longer.
The roots get longer and bigger.
Yes.
Thicker. And here's one of the most interesting things. In the battle of plant root versus rock, who do you think wins, Jessica? Wait, Mr. Derry's here. Let's ask Mr. Derry. Mr. Derry, in the battle of plant root versus rock, who wins? No, doesn't want the question. Jessica, who wins in the battle of plant root versus rock?
Plant root.
Plant root wins. So these little roots that have grown into the rock are going to get bigger. And as they get bigger and expand and get thicker, they are going to force the rock to expand with it. As this continues to occur, it will weaken the rock, causing pieces to break off, roll down the mountain, get turned into smaller rock, turn into pebbles, turn into soil. Little extra piece. None of you have this in your notes before, I think. There's a really cool word that I came across that you don't get to use very often, so I want to teach it to you here in geography class. That word is scree. Can everybody say scree for me? It's such a fun word. Scree. I got to see you saying it. You don't have to turn your eye, but say scree. You say it really loud and scare your sibling or your parents, that's even better. When you have a mountain and you have weathering, remember, we have talked about 4 ways that weathering can occur on a mountain. If weathering occurs on a mountainside, is that rock going to stay there usually? Is that rock going to stay on this very, very, very steep mountainside? What do you think might happen to that rock, Judy? What do you think might happen to that rock on the mountainside after it breaks off of the big rocks? Judy, Judy, Judy. Nope, you don't got it. William, what's going to happen?
Could you please repeat?
When weathering occurs on a mountain and these big pieces of rock have smaller pieces of rock break off of them, what is going to happen to that rock that breaks off on the mountainside? Especially thinking about the mountainside is very steep, looking at my hand. Is that rock just going to stay there on the very steep mountainside?
No.
Where's it going to go?
And it falls to the bottom.
It's going to roll on down. And that's why if you guys look at the base of mountains, you are going to see big piles of rock at the bottom. What are those big piles of rock called, Jessica?
I do not know.
You do. It's the word I just told you to yell really loud so that it scared everyone in your house.
Scree.
They're called scree, right? Scree is the buildup of rocks and boulders and small bits of rocks at the bottom of the mountain that accumulate there due to weathering. You're not going to get many chances to use the word scree in your life. I suggest that you try to make times to use it all the time. It's one of my favorite words, and I never get to use it except in geography class. Screes are caused due to weathering. Weathering makes the rocks on the mountain break apart, and then, because it's a mountain, the rocks will eventually tumble down the mountainside, causing big piles of rocks at the base of the mountain. While you're putting that in your notes, can everybody say hello to, do you want to be Mr. Derry, Teacher Graham, Mr. Graham?
Mr. Derry.
Mr. Derry it is. Mr. Derry's here. I think you've seen in the chat groups that he's going to be offering a phonetics class. I know a couple of you have heard from him already, but he'll be telling you a little bit about that at the end of class today.
Hi, everybody.
Raise your hand if you have any questions about any of the 4 types of weathering or screes. Raise your hand if you are not ready for me to go on. Here are some cool examples of plant root weathering. Pretty easy to see this one, huh? These plants grow in, the plant roots are going to grow into these cracks here. And due to the strength of the plant roots, as they grow bigger and expand, they are going to cause the rock to expand with it and pieces will break off. Anybody ever actually been to this one before? Who knows where this is on the top right? I bet at least one of you has been here on vacation before. Anyone know this spot up here? Where's that? Judy, you know? Yeah, I have a picture there too. Do you have a picture there? I don't speak Judy sign language. You're going to have to tell me.
Root.
It's a root. Yes, I know it's a root, but where is that root? That's a really famous place. Mr. Derry, you know where that is?
Is it Angkor Wat?
It's not Angkor Wat. It's one of the other temples in the Angkor area, though. It's a Tongkom, the one that they used in the Indiana Jones movie.
Oh, cool.
And if you go through those, because they were taken back by the jungle and because they look so cool that they decided not to get rid of them, we can see examples of plant root weathering as the plant roots have grown into the old temples themselves. That is super cool.